You
We're
can you
good.
can take it away then, Jason.
Okay, well, my goodness, hello everybody who's checking out this video, and what's up, Gabe? How you doing?
Hello, hello.
My name is Jason. I work on the Babylon.js platform, and I'm hanging out with my good buddy Gabe. Gabe, what do you do?
I'm the product manager for the Frame team.
Oh yeah, the Frame team. So why don't we're just kind of here hanging out together, and we thought it'd be kind of fun to basically walk people through this collaboration, talking about Frame. Maybe before we jump into what Frame is, though, do you want to maybe start with the story about how we kind of met and kind of how we formed this partnership to collaborate together?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple months ago, we started doing a bit of a dive as we were thinking about the future of Frame. It's built with WebXR. This is 3D on the web. So we did a bit of a exploration on how the best way for us to be building Frame so that it was the best it could be for our users and really kind of future ready. So we evaluated a lot of different tools, a lot of different frameworks out there. Babylon is one of the in our minds the best out there. And I reached out to Jason to kind of invite him in to a little prototype that we built with Babylon. And then before we knew it, Jason and I were kind of in here. The build was much more sort of immature and less developed as the one we're checking out today. But then, yeah, we were interacting kind of inside of a Babylon build before we knew it, and the fact that we were able to do that to kind of rebuild Frame using Babylon was a really good sign for us in terms of just our ability to use it, the documentation and so forth, and then it kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, it's been like a crazy cool journey for us as well. For anyone who doesn't know, Babylon is open source software, so it's free, open to the world. It's not uncommon that people will use Babylon completely on their own. But what's really like touching for us on the core dev team is whenever we have any kind of somebody interested in Babylon to reach out to actually like talk about kind of collaboration and like what that looks together. And so, I was personally very touched to kind of like start a partnership with you just because, you reached out and really was blown away by one thing. Like the very first time I think I entered a frame with you, I think it was just really clear to me that we were right in the middle of the pandemic. The idea that communication, interpersonal communication, was so incredibly challenging, and we were so reliant on video. And there was just something intimate about like, hey, here's a brand new person we hadn't really met before, but
Yep.
suddenly I'm feeling like more connected to this person in this like kind of intimate, interactive space than I am from like the random people I'm meeting on video conferences,
Yep.
on Zoom or whatever it may be. And so there was something really like powerful there that kind of drew me in, and yeah, I've been sort of like hooked on the partnership, and the Babylon team has been like super pumped to see. How Frame has gone from this kind of cool idea into like this awesome thing that we're standing in, which, by the way, I think is maybe like the perfect transition. Would you can I ask you to play like tour guide? Would you like show us or show me around like where we've ended up and maybe like what the heck is Frame?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And a quick cautionary note: we're going to be trying a lot of the new features that are still sort of on the cutting edge of the Frame development cycle. So just in case things go wrong, you're usually just a quick refresh away from coming back in the game. But let's absolutely dive in and just at a high level. So this thing we're in, right, as you said, this is Frame, and Frame is basically we just have two main goals with Frame. The first goal is we just want to make it easy for people to come together and communicate and collaborate inside of a 3D space. And for us, that means it's got to be a web browser, it's got to be a link, and it's got to just be one click. And the beauty of the web and the beauty of frameworks like Babylon that build for the web is that a lot of different devices have a web browser. So we could be on desktop right now, we could be on mobile right now, or we could be in VR. And I think I or maybe both of us will hop into VR in a bit here. So that's super powerful, just kind of cross-platform browser technology. And then once people are inside a frame, our other big goal is just to help them kind of look at a pretty wide range of content. So on the one hand, often people just come into frame to chat. Like the people are the content. And often people are the core content of a meeting. And you're right, there is something just qualitatively different about interacting with other people in a 3D space than there is with video chat. With video chat, you're kind of given this visual, when you have this grid of video icons, you're given a sort of visual reminder that you're not actually in the same place. Whereas with Frame, when you're interacting with avatars inside of a 3D environment, you really have this sense of togetherness and shared sort of presence that's hard to replicate, I think, using other tools. Now, besides the people, though, we also let people look at a lot of different things. And this might be a good chance for us just to kind of kick off the more sort of tour aspect of it. I'll just talk about a few of the different kinds of things you can bring in here. We'll look at a few different environments and look at all the cool bells and whistles that we've been able to bring to life with Babylon here.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So to kick it off, I want to start off just by, let's look at a 3D model and a whiteboard. And the way that I'm going to transition us to this other little scene is with a feature in Frame called Scenes. It's sort of like our version of a PowerPoint slide where you can transition between different arrangements of content that you've set up. So in advance of this meeting, I had set up, 2 scenes. And the first one was just that simple scene we started off in. And then this scene was same environment, but with a dinosaur and with a whiteboard. So this dinosaur is a 3D model. As you can see, it's got an animation on it. We support these animations. This is a GLTF model, which Babylon has very good support for, among other model formats. But we mostly just stick to GLTF with Frame because we find that it has the best kind of performance in this sort of web runtime space. Now, you might be able to see, Jason, I'm kind of moving the model around in the space, and I'm doing this using gizmos. And Babylon actually has really cool out-of-the-box gizmos for this kind of asset manipulations, kind of rotating it around and scaling it up. And one of the cool things about Frame is that the changes you make are persistent. So if we were to leave this frame and come back into it next week, our dinosaur would be just hanging out in the same spot. I'm going to move the dinosaur away to make room for the...
Poor dinosaur.
Yes, this is like my I just overused this dinosaur model to pieces, but he's become a bit of an unofficial mascot for us.
I love it. I'm going to keep interrupting you for a second. There's something like profound, like with what we're seeing like right now, which is when there's video communication is what's connecting us. You miss the ability to communicate spatially, and I think that's a hard thing. Even like for people watching this video, it's going to be a hard thing to understand. But like right now, if I wanted to draw your attention to a part of the dinosaur, I could say, "Hey, look at the dinosaur's tail." But there's something almost more intimate and interactive if I say, "Hey, Gabe, come over here." Right? Yep. Like, come look at what I'm looking at. And you know where I'm at. You can see what I'm looking at. And therefore, you can understand without me directly saying, hey, look at the right side of the tail. I can invite you into my perspective. And like, I know that sounds crazy, but that's profound. Like, spatial communication is really profound. And even in something as simple as putting in a 3D model, well, actually, I mean, this is awesome, animated 3D models. But like, for me to be able to say, hey, come check out what I'm seeing, and you be able to interpret what that means, that's rad. That in and of itself is rad.
Yep. No, you're totally right. This idea of like, I can see what you're looking at is extraordinarily powerful. And just some of the unspoken things that you can take advantage of when you have a sense of space, these are things that we often take for granted when we're interacting in physical spaces. The idea of a teacher who walks to the front of the classroom, and then the students who might be, seated in the back, you sort of know to pay attention to the person who's at the front of the room, or doing things like breaking into small groups, which just typically inherently relies on a sense of space. These are the sorts of things that are just really easy and natural feeling when you're in a 3D environment like this.
Totally. Yeah, and not to be, too everlastingly philosophical here, but the world has fundamentally changed, right? The way that we connect with one another has fundamentally changed, and it's products like Frame that are going to make us think about how a hybrid work environment, what it looks like as a permanent change to the way we interact with one another in the work environment, in the classroom. I mean, we have to have changed. Our culture has changed, right, because of this past year. And so the idea of remote work looking more interactive and collaborative, this is just a part of who we are now. And
Yeah.
so I think that I think this stuff is absolutely amazing, and it's the future. I mean, we're looking at the future of what work and learning looks like, I think.
Yeah, right on. And on real fast on the topic of video, so are you able to see my video kind of planted next to my avatar here, Jason?
Yeah, I sure am.
Cool. Yeah, this is when I mentioned the benefits of Frame compared to video. That's certainly not to disparage video, because video is powerful on its own right. And with Frame, we take the approach of, we think there's a certain kind of special, powerful interaction that can happen without video, and we always like encourage, you don't need to turn on the webcam if you don't want to, but if you want to, you can, as kind of a supplement to the experience. And yours just came on. So it kind of just attaches your webcam right to your avatar, and then you don't need to worry about repositioning it. That's right. Hello. And it'll move around with you. So as you move around, it just comes along for the ride. Now, if you want to go up on the big screen, you can. You just have to bring in an asset for that. And I'll go ahead and bring one in just so we can see what this looks like. I'm going to bring in a streaming screen. I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to scale it up. I'm not going to spend too long getting the dimensions right and everything. I just want to make it a little bit big. And with this screen, I can also share my webcam, and this could be as big, this could be like home theater style large, or I could share my screen on this as well. So everyone wants to, share your screen of whatever it is you'd like to showcase. So this is pretty good. We do have a Zoom 2 feature coming soon, so that just in case the screen is too small for you to really see, you can just kind of zoom into it and get a closer look. Or I can just make the screen super duper big.
Like a temporary zoom, does the individual user have control to kind of like zoom in, or you're saying you, the presenter, have the ability to kind of zoom into an area?
You as the individual can choose if you want to zoom in. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. That'd be rad.
Yeah. And in case you want to have just more of a fun sort of watch party, then you can screen share with audio. So you can watch movies with others. You can just kind of chill out. And other people use this just for more productive things as well. But you can screen share with audio. So that's a
so now it's Netflix and chill with friends, basically.
Exactly. Cool. I'm gonna close that out, and I'm gonna delete this streaming screen just so our space doesn't get too cluttered. Behind us, just while we have it up, you can see we've got a whiteboard up there. The whiteboard is interesting. This is one of those features that is very powerful, but on desktop can actually be a little bit hard to use because you're often clicking and dragging with the mouse. But I will say in VR, the whiteboard is quite slick because it's more of a natural movement. You're moving your VR controller around instead of doing the mouse drag situation.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's actually not bad though. I mean, it's super smooth even on desktop. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's maybe cumbersome because I have a mouse, but it's really performant and smooth, which is rad.
Nice, very cool. This is using Babylon, some kind of canvas stuff. I actually can't speak too much to this. This was one of those things where, porting this to Babylon in my mind was, all right, are we going to be able to do this? But Marlon Lukert on our team is super skilled developer. He came back at me in really just a few days and said, yep, this is looking pretty good here. So that was good to see. Yep. And then in case you happen to draw a masterpiece, you can kind of save your work, you can download it, or you can just clear it. If people were to come in after us, they would see what we see. So, and this is kind of a principle of Frame, is that everything is really fully synchronous. Like generally speaking, if you're seeing something, that's the same stuff that other people will be able to see as well. So if we draw on the whiteboard, other people see that. If you move a 3D model around, other people see that moving in real time. If you blast out some emojis, everyone will see those emojis.
By the way, I just downloaded this. It worked like a charm, and I'm pretty positive this will be the YouTube thumbnail for this video.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, nice. How do we feel about moving to another destination here?
Wait a minute. Like, I'm not limited to being in this sweet amphitheater. I can leave
You are
it.
not limited. We try to set you up with a nice kind of default space, but we've got a lot of options.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. Let's head
Okay.
elsewhere.
Okay, I'm going to take us to a larger space, and we're calling this the campus. And it's actually a good opportunity to showcase a lot of the new features we've built that are designed to help accommodate more scale in Frame. So you'll see a bit more what I'm talking about once it loads. It'll take a few seconds to load, and then we'll be good.
Cool. No problem. In the meantime, we'll just hang out in blue space.
Exactly. Let me know once you see the model around you. So yes, welcome to the campus. As you can tell, this is just a much bigger space, right? This is really a vast sort of environment. And we've got, if you look at my laser pointer, you'll see I'm pointing out over there. We've got separate classrooms where different classes can be taking place at the same time. We've got this big administration building, and you can walk up the ramp to have a little party up on the roof if you want. We do have that. We have that outdoor theater over there, and one of the big things we were able to achieve in this new build with Babylon was a lot more scale. So before we didn't really recommend going beyond 20, or if you wanted to push it, 30 users at once. But in this upcoming Babylon build, we're going to be pushing 40, 50, and potentially 60 or 70, and even on top of that, on top of those fully connected, 60 or 50 avatars, we're going to let people join as spectators, which is kind of an interesting feature. And you can turn this on if you want, like spectator mode enabled. Basically, it just means that more people can connect just as sort of a passive audience. They can see everything, they can hear everything, but they're not seen or heard themselves. So it only makes sense for a certain kind of event.
They don't get a sweet laser pointer.
They don't get a sweet laser pointer. They don't even get an avatar, but they are along for the ride. They can hear everything. They can see everything. So in case you just need to kind of pack some bodies in, it's kind of a one-to-many model, someone giving a talk or what have you. They can use the text chat, so they can participate in Q&As. But yeah, because we have this new support for way more simultaneous users, we had to build a few features to kind of help accommodate this, and I want to show off a few of them right now. So let's say that I'm gonna go to the theater, and let's say you're over here, you're wandering around because it's just so tempting to explore this space, and I understand that, but I want you to come to me, so I will show you how I do that here.
Uh-oh, you can draw me in.
Yep. And really fast while I'm here, I just turned on my megaphone, which might make it so that you can hear me now, even though I'm at a distance. And you can turn on the megaphone too with the button at the top right that looks kind of like a little megaphone.
Hello, now you can hear me.
Absolutely. So this is another really cool feature I'd almost forgotten about, but the voice chat is spatialized in Frame. So you typically hear who you're closer to louder. I'm now too far away for you to be able to hear me, but you can see we both turned on those megaphones. So now we can hear each other. I'm going to go to my online user menu. Because I made this frame, I've got a gather to me button. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to confirm. And now you should get a little modal that says someone's trying to gather you.
There's a lot. That was awesome. Yeah, that's totally worked. And there's a lot that you just said that I think we need to pause and unpack for a second. So one, spatialized audio. So I totally experienced that. Like as you left to come over to the amphitheater, your voice trailed off like Doppler effect goodbye, and then you hit that awesome button, the megaphone button to broadcast, and I can hear you like you were next to me again. So I think one, in a space that's this big, you were mentioning this earlier, but one of the things that space and volume allows for is for people to kind of break off into these natural little intimate subgroups from a bigger group. And then the fact that you don't hear everybody all at the same time if you're in a different location. I mean, I could literally say to another person, "Hey, let's go head off over here and have a little chat, one-on-one chat about, whatever it may be." And the fact then that our voices might be, a little bit isolated from everyone else, or theirs from our conversation, that's huge. That in of itself is a really cool thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is one of the things. I mean, sometimes even in our smaller environments, we have people who like they want to be able to break into small groups easily, but the fall off on the volume isn't quite where they want it. So we actually have like little visible rings on the ground sometime to really that are like totally private, like echo zones, and you get a little chime
Cool.
when you enter them, and then you get a little chime when you leave. But in a space like this, we didn't really need them just because it's just so big. So you can
Yeah,
really just organically, find a space to have a side conversation.
that's so cool. That's really, really rad.
Cool. Now, on this topic of getting around a really big space, there's another feature I want to show off here. And this kind of gets into another aspect of Frame, which is we want Frame to be pretty powerful, even for those that are non-technical people. So from our side, we know the capabilities of frameworks like Babylon for those that are developers, just extraordinarily powerful and at times complex. And one of our aims with Frame is to really kind of abstract that away for our end users who are not coders, who are not always technical people, but still provide a lot of that really cool stuff under the hood to them. So a lot of our user interface is like we kind of let people create basic buttons that do little basic things. So one example of this is what's called a location link. So we saw that I was able to gather you to me, but let's say you wanted to make a little button at the spawn area that was just like go to the theater, and when people clicked on it, it would just take them here. So you don't even need to gather them; they could come on their own accord once they click a button. So I'll show you how I set that up. It's quite easy in Frame. I'm going to import an image. I'm just going to bring in a Frame logo here, nothing too fancy, and I'm going to bring it to. Just going to bring it right here, and fair enough. And I'm in edit mode, and I'm going to click on the image, and I see an option to add a link. And this actually gets pretty cool. So we have a few different options of links you can add on these images. One of them is a frame link, which is exciting kind of on its own right. Like you could just link out to another frame, right? Frame, just like any other website, participates in the tradition of the internet, which is, every page is a series of interconnected sort of nodes, and Frame is a excited participant, in that tradition. So you can link out to another frame. You can link out to another
Cool.
scene that you've made in your frame. We saw in that first theater, I was kind of toggling between scenes. So when people click it, it brings different content into view based on your scene setup. You can set up a notification link so that if someone clicks it, it sends you an email or a text, which is kind of cool. Like maybe you have a frame that's your office, but you're not in there all the time. But if someone joins and you want to set up a little doorbell type thing, you can set up a notification link. Or you can set up a web link to link out to another website that'll open up in an external tab. The main one, I've been motor mouthing about all these different links, but the main one I meant to show you here was like link to spot. And for this one, you can just pick out of any of the spawn spots that you set up in your frame. And you're thinking, well, how do you add a spawn spot? I'm just going to the add to this frame menu. I'm going to add a spawn spot. You might not be able to see it because you're not in edit mode, but I'm going to call it theater. I'm going to add it. And now when I go back to my image and edit it, it shows up as an option in my link to spot. So I'm going to link this to theater. And it doesn't make much sense for us to link to the theater from the theater itself. So what I'm going to do is just drag this logo kind of back a little bit, and then just follow me over here. And this is good enough just to get the point across. Now, if you click on this image, it'll say this will take you to the theater. Confirm. And
Cool.
then we kind of go back there. But you get the idea. We want people to be able to set up different kinds of interactivity and things like that.
So did you just set up what the anchor, what like the concept of theater? Is that predetermined, or did you just set that up just now as well?
I gave that a name. So when I made the spawn spot, I named it theater, And then that's what showed up in the drop down when it was asking me to pick between my spawn spots.
Okay, so you can, sorry, yeah, that's awesome. So you can actually set up any spawn point that you want, and then essentially create opportunities for people to transport themselves there through these little like hyperlink things. That's pretty rad. And
Absolutely.
actually, you got me thinking about something else. Not to nerd out like too deep on this, but like thanks to like Babylon's trigger system and the ability to like recognize when you've entered a mesh, I imagine that you could do some pretty cool stuff around space and LOD loading. So you got me thinking about this scenario. We've got this administration building over here, right?
Yep.
I'm just peeking around the corner in the distance. And let's say that for performance reasons, since I'm outside right now, you don't want the like internal geometry to be super high res, right? You want to do like low version of it just for performance reasons. But I also may be able to like choose to go into the administration building, and maybe there's a front door with a mesh, an invisible mesh that you determine, and like with Babylon's trigger system, you recognize that I've entered that mesh, and then you actually load a new frame because it's just a URL, right? And I technically can go to a new frame that is like the interior with high resolution geometry inside of it. And so it's almost like this cool potential world where you can even if you're limited on the browser to this particular URL having a certain number of polygons that you can render, the space itself is kind of infinitely interconnected potentially with other frames, and that's kind of mind-blowing.
Yes.
In fact, let me just use the mind-blowing avatar thingy
I'm
here.
joining you.
Emojis.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. So like if you think about the idea of creating a spatially based choose your own adventure, or like a classroom like setting where a teacher wants to take students into like a different wing of the museum, that museum could be a different URL so that the quality in any given space can be higher. That's bonkers. That's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, I love that vision. And some of the fancy things that Babylon can do with GLTF model loading, we've only really scratched the surface here. And this is one of the things generally that just sort of excites me about Babylon, is knowing that it could do all that we needed it to do, but also that we still have so much more to go in terms of squeezing out a lot of those cool features and optimizations that we know that we can do. But you're totally right. I think in a scenario like that, absolutely. I mean, the admin building, like, it does look good, but we're starting to push the limits with this campus of what we can reasonably, squeeze into this frame and still have perform well on mobile and Quest. But you're totally right. Once you enter that building, that could just be its own dedicated frame that is just specially looking really nice for that admin building. And on this topic of transitioning between frames, this actually raises an interesting just point about our collaboration between the frame and Babylon teams, which is that sometimes in our process of developing frame based on what we've heard from our users, there have been a few times where Babylon as it existed wasn't able to do what we needed it to do. And in basically every one of those times, I was able to go to Jason or Ronan or someone else on the team. And one example was this idea of transitioning between frames when you're in the Oculus Quest without breaking immersion. So this is something that didn't exist in Babylon, but now it does. So I filed an issue on GitHub, and 2 weeks later, it was in the alpha Babylon build, and now it's going to be in frame. So just another cool example of a little bit of collaboration between our teams.
And then, because I have to ring the open source bell, your idea of wanting this, our desire to unlock this for you also then means, of course, because it's open source, that's available to everybody, right?
Yep.
In Babylon, which is huge. And that's
Absolutely.
That's kind of that glory story of open source and how everybody's ideas and contributions make it better for everyone else.
Yep. Love it. Cool.
I found the secret. I found the secret, the laser pointer. I found it.
Oh, you found the hotkey?
I was looking for it.
Yep.
I found the laser pointer. Yes, it's amazing. I have the infinite capabilities now of pointing to things.
Very good.
Sorry.
Very good. Another hotkey that I think you saw this at the very beginning. If you press C, it'll pull up a user interface. And
Yeah.
it can look a little bit awkward on desktop depending on where you are. Sometimes it can be intersecting with other objects in the scene. It's primarily built for VR. I will say that. Like most of the UI on desktop in Frame, you access with that button at the top right. It pulls up this sidebar. But if you press C, it pulls up a little kind of like an in-world user interface. And
Oh yeah.
I'm going to hop in on VR in just a second to just to show you what that looks like and how I can interact with it there. But you get a sense of it here. This is just sort of that what that UI looks like. And it's a fairly straightforward panel, but you'll see that this is how we make pretty much most of the features of Frame available even to those that are in VR. So if you're logged in, you can pull in assets from your inventory. You can customize your avatar no matter what device you're on. You can see the online user menu. I could do that gather command right from VR. You even can do text chat in VR using the Babylon virtual keyboard. So it's pretty powerful stuff. And if you want, you can just text chat right from the text chat input there on desktop. But being able, for the VR people to be able to participate in that and even text chat if they want is pretty cool stuff. And this is all stuff that's pretty new to our upcoming build. Right now in Frame, you can come in on VR and it works fine, but you're mostly just kind of talking and you're there and you have hands. But now with this UI, we're bringing a lot of functionality to VR, and we're super psyched about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just messing around with edit mode. That's pretty intuitive too. The ability to just kind of bring in pictures, video, whatever you want. I can see now how you're bringing in the cards. That's really really rad.
Nice. Very nice. And 3D models are getting a lot of love during this session, as they should. It's a big part of Frame, but I don't want to forget about 360-degree photos either. So I want to bring one in, and here it is. It's a bit of a big one, bit of a heavy one. Hopefully this doesn't crash anyone's browser here. And I'm going to expand it, and let's see what happens here. Okay, now I've set this frame up so that the environment stays in view even when you have a sphere expanded. I've done that kind of by
Cool.
design, but now I want to turn off the environment so that we can just check out the 360 photo.
I suddenly feel like I have superpowers. This is amazing.
Good.
That's super rad. So you essentially can use something like this photo sphere to be your skybox for your environment, but then you can also just choose to go explore it and look all around too. That's super cool.
Yep.
Very cool support.
Cool. All right, I'm going to take us back home. There we go. Okay, Jason, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to take 20 seconds here just to hop in on my quest so that I can say hi to you from there.
Yeah, actually, I might do the same thing, I think.
So, welcome to VR.
Woohoo!
Yeah, absolutely. So, I see you're getting the hang of teleport. We have a teleport still a little rough around the edges. The hands kind of fly a little bit after the body moves. It's a fun effect, but not the end expected result. But you can teleport with either controller. This is using a lot of the Babylon, a slightly tweaked version of the Babylon teleport controls that were pretty fun to implement. To be honest, you can use either joystick for them, and yeah, I'm sure you've seen these plenty of times. To see the UI that we have, this is pretty cool. So kind of stick your controllers in front of you, and you'll see attached to your left controller a little button.
Yeah.
And if you pop that up, there is our UI. So you can even, like, as I said, we could text chat together. Not that we need to, but I just love this virtual keyboard that pops up if you try to input your name tag or a text chat. I'm just going to say, I just said my name for some reason. I'll say hi in the text chat. It should be coming through. If you're logged in, you can pull in assets from your inventory. So here I am, and I'm going to pull in a audio file. See if this works. Here's my audio file, and I don't see the playback controls, maybe because we have yet to work on audio. Oh, here they come. And now I can play the audio. Now the audio is playing. A little gritty because I think my MP3 is really poor quality, but you get the idea. You can kind of just dynamically bring in assets.
Sorry, my fault.
No, it's all good. I think the volume was just cranked. Note to self. check out the audio asset, make sure things are looking good on that one. I'll bring in, let me pause that, let me stop that. Maybe I'm not able to. There we go. Okay, perfect. I'll bring in something like a PDF, just a simple little PDF here. And here it is.
I'm going to ruin our recording. I have somehow transported on top of the environment. I am on the roof looking down upon you.
That is amazing. Okay, this is an amazing little accident. Is there any way that you can get the teleport target somehow on the floor again? Maybe if you're on the edge of the environment and kind of looking.
I think I'm back.
Oh, I see you. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. No, you're all good. I was just showing, I brought in a little PDF. I can turn on edit mode, even when I'm in VR. And then when I click on this PDF, you'll see I can drag it around. And this is because these gizmos are so awesome, right? They work on anything. You can even manipulate assets on mobile, which is just extraordinary, really, like on an iPad or a smartphone, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool. And this is just such an immersive experience, too. This is awesome.
Cool. Jason, I was wondering, I've been talking a lot about Frame, which of course is fun, but I'd love to, as you think about Babylon and the different ways that it's being used, I'd love to just get your quick take on, the kind of trajectory of the project and just sort of, maybe anything you'd like to talk about really about Babylon and the use cases you see of it right now.
Yeah, I really do want to just echo how awesome this partnership is and has been, and I think it's been a highlight of kind of our core principles with Babylon. We have a mission statement that we've written pretty intentionally that we want to create one of the most powerful, beautiful, simple, and open web rendering engines in the world. And interestingly enough, you've actually touched on all of those, all four of those principles. The fact that that Babylon has built, it is a platform, has given developers the ability to build cross-platform experiences. I mean, even here in just this, short little video, we've done desktop on web, we've done cross URLs, we've gone on VR. The power of what's possible because of the platform is something that we're deeply committed to, right? To give developers everywhere the GPU and access to it to do a ton of crazy things that haven't been able really to be easily done before. We're really committed to the future of that. So, for example, right now, we're using. I'm on the Oculus Quest, and so I'm accessing Babylon, which is talking through WebGL to the GPU. WebGL and WebGL2 are amazing APIs. They're not the only ones, and WebGPU is something that's coming in the future as well, which has the potential to unlock a lot of more power and kind of be the next iteration of maybe what's possible in web developers accessing the GPU. And so that's something we're deeply committed to supporting as well. In fact, Babylon actually currently supports the active spec for WebGPU, and we're every day we have developers working full time on making sure that it is supporting the absolute latest there.
Epic.
Yeah, that's gonna be really big. The other thing too that you're already touching on just with this brilliant environments that we've explored together is beautiful. We really do want Babylon to not just render 3D images, but to render the most beautiful 3D images possible. And so with full PBR workflow is something we're deeply committed to, and as GLTF supports new extensions for different PBR workflows, things like Sheen and Clearcoat. We're committed to making sure that Babylon always supports those. So you mentioned earlier the support that Babylon has for GLTF, and that's definitely becoming very quickly kind of the JPEG of 3D objects in the world. And that's something that we're deeply committed to being a part of, and even help lead and drive in the open source standards world. And that's really the ability to let people render kind of amazing things. And then, you know, the word simple is going to mean something different to every person. I think for experienced web developers, a great API that's easily understandable and easy to navigate is something that hopefully you'll find in Babylon and something that we're committed to. But, you know, the future of Babylon, we actually recognize, I love that you showed off and talked earlier about the fact that not everybody is a web developer. Not every frame user is going to be a web developer. And we recognize that as well. We recognize that, you know, we even within the web developer space, people come with wildly different backgrounds and experience levels. And so we're really committed to the idea of how do we expand a Babylon user, or what we might consider a Babylon developer, to get beyond code, to kind of get outside of code. And so we're working on a lot of different tools and tool sets to make it easier and easier and easier to write less code. I don't think you'll ever have a world in Babylon where you won't interact with code in some way, but we can certainly reduce the amount that we require developers to write. And so, like, I'll give you an example. I'm sure with some of the stuff here that we're seeing, you're using our advanced textures and some of our UI tools. And we recognize that that's something that is not the easiest in the world, and there's room to improve there. So we're actually actively making a GUI editor right now to allow for better interaction without having to write tons of code. So yeah, sorry, that's a little soapboxy, but you know, I'm really passionate about what we're working on, and the fact that we're in here looking in frame, showing all this off, I mean, is just an example of all of that. And then I guess the last thing is just, we've already touched on, which is just open source. So for me to hear the idea that you've contributed ideas back to Babylon for everyone to you know, up level the platform, it's just huge. It's absolutely huge. So yeah, it's been an amazing partnership, super fun, and I can't wait to see it continue to develop, because this is absolutely awesome. I love it. I do want to bring up one more thing, which we really haven't covered completely just yet, but you know, this goes back to kind of the benefit of interactive space. And we've talked a little bit about how the web is so powerful because it can go cross-platform so easily. But you know, one of the things that was so compelling to me when we first started chatting was this idea of a teacher walking students through a museum. And there's something about that image that really resonated with me, where, you know, we've brought up images and cards and 3D models, but you can position them anywhere in the world, and you can take someone on a physical journey through that. So for example, you know, we have our little audio thing right here, and you can also go over and place something over next to one of these couches, and you can actually say, rather than let me just bring it up right now, you can say, hey, come on over here. And it feel like we're navigating learning together in an actual space. And I think the first time that resonated with me, it was like, wait, this is the web, and this is the future of remote learning and remote interaction. And it was just, that's really powerful, really powerful. And so, like, again, we're just super pleased to see what you all are doing with the platform, and it's been our pleasure to kind of support the development and the feature requests, and yeah, keep them coming, definitely. It's been an amazing journey. This is an incredible platform. We're super pumped to be a part of it.
Sounds great. And one thing I want to emphasize is, in my mind, this is really just the start. You know, this is, we're just coming out of the ground with a rebuild with Babylon, but you know, and on our side, like, we're just getting started. There's excitement from all of our developers about how they know that there's so much there that we haven't even tapped yet, and how you know, we're seeing how the framework is evolving, and in our mind, the journey is just getting started.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, I completely echo that. We're on this journey with you. Well, cool. Well, hey, you know, this has been super fun to like walk around Frame and see kind of what you all have built with Babylon. I hope, you know, people watching this at home have, you know, been inspired to use Babylon, and also to come check out Frame and yeah, see what kind of the future of interactive connectivity looks like, because I think we're literally standing in it as we speak.
Very cool. Well, thanks for your time today, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. We'll talk later.
All right, sounds great. Bye.